you need something that would complement those green sources, as they conventionally describe them, and nuclear can do that. I mean, nuclear has high reliability and is available 24/7, and can actually be modulated fairly easily too. And so one of the most hopeful developments is in the so-called small modular reactors, with the emphasis, to my mind, on modular, because that means that they can be deployed relatively quickly, extensively. And the small is all very relative. I mean, they're going up to 300 megawatts electrical. That's not all that small. It's only sort of about 2/3 of the size of the main first generation of CANDU reactors that Ontario still operates in large extent and gives us about 60% of our electricity is nuclear. So that's one of the most hopeful developments that's available to us, that deploying these second generation or third generation, depends how you count it, nuclear reactors extensively. One of the silly arguments that's advanced against nuclear by the more hair-shirt Greens is that it's a finite resource. Well, it is true it's finite. There's only so much uranium, but there's 4 times as much thorium. The uranium itself could last a million years, so it's not really an issue. We've got enough resource material there that nuclear is effectively an open-sourced supply. And I say it not on its own, it has to be blended in with wind and solar, because those can be deployed more easily and more extensively, but they come up against the issue of their variability and unreliability, which is very difficult to address. Batteries, yes, to some degree, fancy things like compressed air storage, pumped water where you can get away with it, but unfortunately that's not available in too many places. So I think if you don't have nuclear, I think most people would agree, most people who are reasonably informed and have analysed the situation, something like 30% of the energy has to come from nuclear sources if we're going to really get off carbon. And of course, one should put some emphasis on getting off the dirtiest carbon first, which is where it's so tragic that the Germans, I'm sorry, I keep complaining about the Germans, but having eschewed nuclear, they're turning off nuclear reactors and burning brown coal in its place, which is a dreadful source. It's about 3 times worse than burning natural gas to produce your electricity. So those are the areas that ought to be being phased out first, because they are the sort of the low-hanging fruit in terms of improving the situation.
Who do you see having a bigger role in transition? Governments or big energy companies? Who has more influence in this field?
Or governments. I mean, some of the big energy companies do try harder than others, but you're aware, I'm sure, of the latest brouhaha over Exxon Mobile. They've known about it for getting on for 50 years and been very accurately informed. So I don't think you can trust them to do it. And Shell and BP have wanted to look a little greener for a long time. And BP have rebuilt themselves as beyond petroleum, but they're not going to do it on their own. No, governments have to do it. And now I think Canada, the federal government in Canada, is to be commended for its carbon tax, which is still relatively modest, but it's ratcheting up steadily to $170 per ton by 2030. And that really will bite. You need carbon taxes of the order of $100 or so per ton to really force people to change. And that in Canada is coming, despite a lot of screaming and yelling from the provinces that are particularly rich in petroleum, particularly Alberta.